Our next speaker is Katrina Matheson from various schools.
Hello, my name is Katrina Matheson, and I am the School Council Co-Chair at Winona Drive. This statement is co-signed by Alejandra Gonzalez Jimenez, Chair at Dover Court, and Joanne Marcano and Joella Connett, former and current chairs of Scarborough Village School, and is delivered in association with our newly formed Toronto School Council Coalition. I personally have been involved in organizing against the board's pending cuts of the aquatics programs at Winona and 7 other schools. There is no question that reducing student access to swimming is a detriment to their physical and mental health. Nevertheless, what we have heard over the last number of weeks is the embrace by the board of a budgeting process that is designed to pit school against school, ward against ward, and trustee against trustee. Reversing cuts here means pain elsewhere. These budgeting discussions make plain the ugly elephant in the room. Following years of deep budget cuts by the provincial government, we have arrived at the point where students' minimum basic needs are simply unable to be met. This has inspired us to convene the Toronto School Council Coalition, which after only 1 week already involves more than a dozen TDSB schools. Let's imagine the TDSB as a carousel. There are students on the carousel riding their wooden horses up and down. The bells and whistles have long been since taken down. The paint's wearing off. There's no splendor here anymore. But the students come back day after day, and they keep riding it even though every year more pieces are taken off. By the time it's completely dismantled, the carousel, the Ford government will have convinced everyone that the shiny and robust carousel of public education was just a figment of our imagination. When people can no longer remember what it's like to have an impressive school system, then they will be easily sold a privatized scheme, just like Ford is trying to sell us with healthcare, public transit, and even our public roads and waterfronts. If you quietly pass a gutted budget this year, you might think that you are doing a service to your constituents by politely doing your job and keeping the carousel running on its track. But all you will be doing is allowing this wholesale theft from our children to continue in broad daylight, knowing full well that the provincial strategy is to eventually leave us with nothing. Whether you pass a budget this month or not, I implore you, nothing from here forward can be business as usual. The trustees must unite to expressly acknowledge the elephant in the room. These cuts have reached the bone. These cuts to date, let alone the coming cuts, already jeopardize the long and short-term health and well-being of our students. These cuts demand a full-throated condemnation by every single trustee, a condemnation that rightly incites lawsuits against the province to compel legislators to do what is required of them, a condemnation that demands federal intervention and lends moral support to labor strikes and even student strikes. When we have children in our schools who go hungry through the day and experience anti-Black racism so bad that they wish themselves not to be Black anymore, when we have schools that are overcrowded by hundreds of kids, when the children who are academically behind because of COVID simply have no hope of catching up because the additional staff that they rely on have long since been cut, it is time to use every tool that you have, not as trustee as your ward, but united together as trustees of education in Toronto. To do this, the trustees as a body must demand more for the students of Canada's largest school district. To support this action, the Toronto School Council Coalition aims to establish a schedule of minimum basic student needs. Like a Bill of Rights, the schedule will identify the absolute baseline resource expectations necessary for every school. This includes full use of the school facility as it was equipped, adequate classrooms and bathrooms, educational assistance, intensive anti-bullying initiatives, and so on. Moreover, there's an obligation for compliance not only of the Ontario Education Act, but also of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which was ratified by Canada in 1991. The Toronto School Council Coalition intends to hold the trustees, the province, and the nation of Canada to these obligations. Over the last few weeks, you have heard from passionate parent and student delegations advocating for things that they love about their school. These families are still on the carousel. Please stand up and lead us in this fight while there is still a carousel left to save.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the delegate? Oh, sorry. I have Trustee Dawson online and then Trustee Laskin.
Hi, thank you very much for your delegation. It was very powerful, and it's always, very inspiring to hear of parent action happening in our community. I was wondering, could you please repeat the name of the coalition that you and several schools have joined together in, and also how many schools are involved?
So this was an initiative that came up in the last week. I put out an email to every school council email address, and I got 15 replies with this message that more or less, message that I read to you. And we had our first meeting. It was very powerful. We brought Andrea Thompson to delegate, as you heard, and we collaborated on the statement that I read. So it's the Toronto School Council Coalition. Was that your only question? Hope that answers it.
And how many schools?
Right now, 15.
Right, okay. That's really amazing organizing inside of a week, and I hope that you will share your letter with trustees that you sent out to schools so that we can share it as well with our networks. I do have one more question. One of the challenges that we face as a board in terms of operating in isolation with clapping back on some of these cuts is that we are not as strong if we are acting as a single board. What kind of action are you taking to encourage trustees from all school boards to activate against the cuts overall from our government?
That's a great question. I don't know yet, but I'm sure we can do it. I'm sure we can do it. Thank you for giving me a new challenge.
All right. Just planting the seed, because,
Yes.
it is
Very
such
good.
a challenge for us. But thank you very much for being receptive. And I do very much appreciate the delegation today and all of the action that you and other families are taking. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And Trustee Laskin.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Katrina. You mentioned you were putting together the minimum requirements, or it just made me smile because back in 1997, I was involved in the Need to Succeed budget, which was exactly the same with then former Premier Wynne. We were parents together in the former Toronto board, and we put together a list of essentials. It will be very interesting to see what 25 years has done, but I'll make sure you have that just for your reference as you build your new model. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I did forget to mention at the start that everyone who's delegated, if you have a written delegation in front of you, please email a copy of that to the delegates at TDSB email address, and that will be shared with all trustees.
Okay. Thank you.